Did Denver take the series, or do you feel like Minnesota blew it?
What you mean take the series or they blew it? This series is going 7 games. It's neither. This series is going 7 games. Minnesota is going to win game 6, and then it's going to be a game 7, and Minnesota is going to pull it off.
Who's going to pull it off?
Minnesota is going to pull it off. Before the series started, I had Minnesota winning this in 7 games, and damn it, they're going to get it done.
After the Minnesota Timberwolves lost Game 5 and went down in the series 3-2 after starting off with a 2-0 lead, almost nobody in the world, especially publicly, had the same sentiment as Kendrick Perkins, that the Wolves would respond and win in 7 games. Yet on Thursday night, with their backs against the wall, Minnesota would come out and defeat Denver by 45 points, 115-70, setting us up for an epic Game 7 showdown Sunday night in Denver. And last night did not disappoint, with the Timberwolves winning 98-90, but it gets even crazier than that. So let's take a deeper dive into how the Minnesota Timberwolves clinched their second ever Western Conference Finals appearance in franchise history on the same day they did it 20 years ago, and Kevin Garnett's 49th birthday. Let's dive right in. Before we get into the video, I want to announce we are running another giveaway, this time sponsored by Pristine Auction, a leading platform specializing in signed and authenticated sports memorabilia. I was fortunate enough to win a couple items on their weekly and daily auctions, like this Nas Reed signed jersey and this Jaden McDaniels autographed jersey as well, both in the Minnesota Timberwolves City Edition uniforms from this season, which I'm extremely excited about as a Wolves fan. I also snagged this sick Desmond Bane autographed jersey as well, and I took a chance on this Golden Chalice sports card mystery pack that guarantees 1 graded card in the pack. I'm currently awaiting shipment of these items, and once I do, I will unbox them in the next video, and I'll be giving away each of these on Twitter. But for now, Pristine is offering you $10 off your first winning bid when you sign up using the code Hardwood10. Go check them out now. They have tons of stuff, almost anything you could want, including daily auctions and my personal favorite, 10-minute live auctions. Go ahead and follow me on Twitter now. I actually started the Nas Reed giveaway already. It's in my pinned tweet in my profile. I'll be giving away the rest of the items over the next following weeks. And don't forget to use Hardwood10 for $10 off. Thanks Pristine for sponsoring this video and allowing me to do this full time. Thank you guys for supporting me. Let's get back into the video. In the first half, Minnesota would score just 19 points in both the first and second quarter, giving them just 38 points at halftime, which is not only a season low, but a franchise low since 2021. Anthony Edwards was 1 for 7 from the field. Mike Conley was also 1 for 7, and Nickeil Alexander-Walker was 0 for 5. The Wolves were shooting just 31% as a team, 25% from 3, and were down 15 points to the defending champs at home in a Game 7. An absolute nightmare start for the Timberwolves. I saw a tweet at halftime, and as a Minnesota fan, it didn't give me much solace. But the tweet said that when Anthony Edwards had less than 5 points at halftime this year, the Wolves were a remarkable 7-1. This game would add to that tally as Ant had just 4 points, so who knows, maybe there was something to that. Any remnant of hope remaining, Denver tried to snuff out quickly in the third quarter, with Jamal Murray hitting this 3, putting the Nuggets up 20, 58-38. Somehow, some way, this Minnesota defense would go into God mode and the offense would come alive. The Nuggets would score just 9 points the rest of the quarter, and Minnesota would outscore them by 19 points, 28-9. Ant cuts the lead to 12 here, and Michael Malone calls a timeout to try to stop the bleeding. Jaden McDaniels hits this 3, and Mike Conley hits this 3 as the shot clock expired on back-to-back possessions, cutting the lead to just 6. Karl Anthony Towns will cut the lead to 2 with a minute to go on this drive. And I gotta say, before we continue, Cat was phenomenal in this game. When no one else had it going in the first half, Cat did on offense. He scored 13 in that first half on 5 for 6 from the field. Plus, he was playing defense on Nikola Jokic better than almost anyone we've seen over the past 2 seasons. And that drive that we just showed really encapsulated how calm and collected he has been on the offensive end in this postseason, which is a huge sign of growth from him in these playoffs. NBA playoff games are won at the ends and beginnings of quarters, so Anthony Edwards getting this steal and breakaway dunk on Jamal Murray and then having this step back 3 to end the quarter was absolutely huge, cutting the lead to just 1 point, 67-66. Heading into the fourth. And then to start the fourth, which was massive again, the Wolves would score the first 2 buckets, including this Naz Reid layup, giving Minnesota a 70-67 lead, which about 20 minutes ago seemed inconceivable. Rudy Gobert would then hit this fadeaway jumper, which is a once-in-a-lifetime shot for him, putting the Wolves back up 4. And at this point, I feel like we got the hint that maybe on Minnesota's side in this one, but it was this sequence with just 4 minutes left on the clock that was the winning sequence of the game for me. Minnesota was up 85-82. Naz Reid was in the game for Cat due to Cat picking up his 5th foul just a few minutes earlier. And Naz would get this offensive rebound, get fouled, and put the Wolves up back 5 with these free throws. And then after getting cooked by him all series, he blocks Nikola Jokic on this play and gets a put-back dunk on a missed Anthony Edwards 3 over Jokic on the ensuing possession. Mr. Clutch, Mike Conley, steals the ball from Jamal Murray just a possession later, and Naz kicks it out to Ant for a corner 3, a 5-point swing, putting the Wolves up 92-82. That won the game for the Wolves in my opinion. One quick caveat, this had 0 impact on the official score of the game, but how about 6-foot-tall Mike Conley with a sore Achilles at 36 years old, winning this jump ball tip versus a 6'5" KCP? Conley told the team before the playoffs started, basically, this is probably his last chance at a ring and potentially his best. I just love to see him giving everything. And although the Denver Nuggets could conceivably come back after that moment, it just felt like a championship sequence from Minnesota. Any remaining doubt was put away with this Cat put back dunk with 40 seconds left, and the Minnesota Timberwolves would go on to clinch their 2nd ever Western Conference Finals berth. As I said in the intro, their first one took place in 2004, 20 years ago to this day, when Kevin Garnett would lead his Timberwolves over the Sacramento Kings, with it also being the Big Ticket's 49th birthday. As a Timberwolves fan, I don't think many of you understand the pain that we have been through for the past 20 years. This isn't the heartbreak pain of the Minnesota Vikings. It's a different kind of pain, a straight up we are awful type of pain. Karl Anthony Towns had a great way of putting it in his post-game press conference. He's been here for 9 years. This is something he's wanted to do with the franchise. He has been loyal, could have forced his way out many times, and finally he has been able to do so. StatMuse shared an interesting stat at halftime of the Pacers game that teams are 20-0 in NBA history in Game 7s after being up 15 plus points at half. Earlier in that day, the Indiana Pacers would make them 21-0. Every streak was meant to be broken, and now those teams are 21-1, and I think Jaden McDaniels deserves so much credit for the Timberwolves. This was his first time in his career to have back-to-back 20-plus point performances. And if you follow the Wolves closely at all, you know that when Jaden McDaniels plays this way on the offensive end, this team is one of, if not the best team in the NBA. Jaden would finish the game going 7 for 10 from the field, 3 for 4 from 3, and 6 for 7 from the free throw line, with 4 offensive rebounds, 23 points. He also had 21 points and was 8 for 10 from the field in that Game 6 victory. He missed his first shot in Game 6, so since that missed shot, when the Timberwolves needed him most, Jaden McDaniels went 15 for 19 from the field with their backs against the wall, all the while playing incredible defense. Anthony Edwards did not have the offensive game that we were all expecting him to. Matter of fact, he went just 6 for 24 from the field, was 2 for 10 from 3, but he did finish with 16 points, 7 assists, and 8 rebounds with just 1 turnover. And at the end of the day, this 22-year-old was making winning plays out there on a night when his shot wasn't falling. going. He started guarding Jamal Murray in the third quarter and put the absolute clamps on him. Rudy Gobert also had a rough first half, to the point where Charles Barkley at halftime on TNT said it's time to bench Rudy, which, if you know the plus minus that Rudy has had for the Wolves in this series and the playoffs, was ridiculous. But Rudy came out and had a great second half. He's always been an anchor for this best defense in the NBA, and he was exactly that again. Karl Anthony Towns finished with 23 points as well, went 8 for 14 from the field with 12 rebounds, and although he got into foul trouble, had 5 fouls, he played incredible individual defense on Nikola Jokic. I am so happy for Cat. He's been through so much in his NBA career, to the tune of something like 3 or 4 general managers in his 9 seasons, and 4 or 5 head coaches as well. I made a video on Cat back in January saying that he had the potential to redeem his national media narrative in this postseason, and he has done exactly that, particularly in this series, to the point where even Bill Simmons tweeted out this during that Game 7. And it's true, this series has been a legacy-defining series for Cat, in my opinion. One other thing about Rudy Gobert, he went 7 for 9 from the free throw line. A lot of those occurred in the second half when the Wolves needed every single one of those points. On the Denver side, Nikola Jokic had 34 points, went 13 for 28 from the field, 2 for 10 from 3, but he started out 0 for 7 from 3, was settling for those threes that he usually makes, but in these playoffs, he has had a below average three-point shooting. He did have 19 boards and 7 assists, but outside of Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray, who had 35 points as well, nobody else on the Denver Nuggets scored more than 7 points. MPJ was 3 for 12 and 1 for 6 from 3, good for just 7 points. Aaron Gordon had just 4, and KCP 2 for 7 with 5 points. Christian Brown is the only bench player that scored any points or even played any meaningful minutes. I thought he was actually pretty good on the defensive end, but on the offensive end, he scored just 5 points as well. And that's just not going to cut it, no matter how well Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray play. But if you're a Nuggets fan, I feel like you have to be really disappointed in MPJ and KCP in this series particular. These guys were both integral pieces of that championship team last year. Matter of fact, I looked at the stats. KCP shot 38% from 3 and scored 10.6 points per game last year in the playoffs. In this year's playoffs, he averaged just 8 points per game on 39% from the field and 32% from 3. Meanwhile, MPJ's numbers actually look better in this postseason, but that is only due to how well he played in that Lakers series, where he was arguably their best player, averaging 22.8 points per game on 55.3% from the field and a whopping 48.8% from 3. But in these 7 games versus the Timberwolves, MPJ would average just 10.7 points per game on 37% from the field and just 32.5% from 3. The Denver Nuggets needed MPJ and KCP, and honestly, they just did not deliver for them in this series. I also want to point out a pretty bad sequence in that fourth quarter. Anthony Edwards drives to the lane, gets absolutely hacked by KCP, no call. And then Nikola Jokic falls to the ground when Rudy Gobert barely touched him, with Scott Foster inserting himself into the play, calling the foul from the sideline. Not that it matters, but you could tell that Nikola Jokic was completely gassed in that second half, and he really was trying to take advantage of everything he could, including the officiating. I can't say enough good things about this Minnesota Timberwolves team. It almost feels impossible to come back from 20 points down in Game 7 versus the Denver Nuggets, the reigning champs, on their home floor. And so when something like that happens, you have to ask yourself, is this just the Minnesota Timberwolves year? They'll now match up versus the Dallas Mavericks in the Western Conference Finals, but the most important thing is that they now have home court advantage, which I'm not only excited for as a Wolves fan, but I'm excited for the state of Minnesota and the city of Minneapolis. This fan base has deserved a run like this for so long, but instead they've just gotten complete inadequacy. That crowd is going to be going absolutely crazy for games 1 and 2, and I really do think the Timberwolves match up well versus the Dallas Mavericks. Obviously, Dallas has been one of the hottest teams in the NBA since the trade deadline, and guys like Daniel Gafford and PJ Washington have made all the difference for their defense in particular. To just forecast for 1 second and think about what a championship would mean, not just to the state of Minnesota, but the individual players on the Minnesota Timberwolves. You have Mike Conley, who has never made it to an NBA Finals at 36, one of the most respected veterans in the game today, which probably is his final shot at a ring. Rudy Gobert, a 4-time DPOY that has never made it to a conference finals. Karl Anthony Towns, the laughing stock of the league and a player that was always deemed to not be a winning player. And Anthony Edwards, a 22-year-old superstar who, if he wins his first ring at 22, will be a huge notch in his belt as he builds his career resume. I told you guys in my series preview video, I felt like this was going to be the best series of the entire playoffs. And although we only got 2 games in the clutch, it was still an incredibly fun series. Those clutch games occurred in games 1 and game 7, which were extremely fitting. It felt like to me the winner of this series was going to win the NBA Finals, and that has not changed in my opinion, but we'll see what happens. We could all of a sudden run into a buzzsaw in the Dallas Mavericks, and maybe the season's over, but it is of my true belief that the Minnesota Timberwolves, now that they have gotten past Denver, are going to make it to their first NBA Finals in franchise history, defeating the Dallas Mavericks in 6 games, and then defeating the Boston Celtics in 7. But we'll see what happens. It's going to be a fun ride. I'm certainly going to enjoy every single moment. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, there's more videos like this to come. Check out the Clippers video or my son's video I did roasting their roster construction and their bleak futures 4 to 5 years out. Again, thank you so much for watching this video. Check out Pristine Auction. Use code HARDWOOD10 for $10 off your first winning bid. Check out my Twitter to be a part of the giveaways I'm partnering with Pristine for. And as always, we'll see ya on the hardwood.